Hey, Mom. I don't know if I'll make it tonight. Miranda has something planned for Dad, and, I promised I'd help out. Maybe we can celebrate another day." Her voice on the phone was soft, almost lost in the static. But I heard every hesitation. She didn't say no. She didn't say yes. She left me hanging in that empty space between hope and disappointment, clutching the phone just a little too tightly, as if the right words might still arrive if I waited long enough. I wanted to believe she would come, that she'd walk through the door with her old easy smile, bringing laughter and the warmth that used to fill our home on special nights. But as the day went on, all I heard was the tick of the clock, the hum of the fridge, and my own careful footsteps echoing through the house. It was my 60th birthday. I spent the afternoon in the kitchen, icing a cake with hands that shook more than I'd admit, setting out the good plates, slipping into a dress my daughter once said made me look like the best version of myself. I tried to focus on the little things, getting the candles just right, folding napkins into careful shapes, pouring water into glasses nobody would use. I told myself, every hour, that she'd be here soon, that she'd remember how much these moments used to mean to both of us. But evening came and went, and the house was filled only with the quiet sounds of waiting. And then, just as I was about to blow out the candles alone, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Erin, my daughter, caught mid-laugh. Her glass raised, arm draped around Miranda, my ex-husband's wife. The caption underneath read, "To the best mom in the world." 4 words that cut sharper than any truth. There it was. My place. My child. My moment. Now rewritten and given to someone else. I stared at the picture for a long time. In Miranda's expression, I saw pride. Yes. But something more. A flicker of relief. Maybe even guilt. A smile that lasted just a little too long. And eyes that slid sideways, as if making sure everyone was still watching, that the story was still hers to control. I sat across from the empty chair at my own table, trying to piece together everything that hadn't been said. Maybe this is how mothers vanish, not with a door slamming, not with a single cruel word, but with all the silent spaces left behind, all the little celebrations you're no longer invited to, all the photos where you've been cropped out. I felt myself dissolving, piece by piece, into that quiet, but somewhere in the hush, I made myself a promise. My story isn't over. Some victories are silent, but their echo lingers long after the lights go out. I looked at that empty chair and thought, nobody at that party knew that 3 years later, my name would quietly replace theirs above every doorway. The next celebration? Only time will tell who gets the empty chair. My name is Grace. Around here, most people recognize me as the woman who built the Willow House from the ground up. That place was never just about food. It was where secrets floated above the tables, where birthdays and breakups and new babies all found a place to be celebrated. Every story in this town seemed to pass through my door at one point or another, and I like to believe my own story was woven just as tightly into those old wooden beams. After the divorce, I clung to what felt familiar, pouring myself into work, into traditions I thought couldn't be uprooted. But life has a way of shifting quietly while you're busy trying to hold it together. Peter, my ex-husband, moved on. He married Miranda, a woman I remembered from the early days. Eager, friendly, always offering a little extra help, always looking for ways to be seen. At first, it was nothing. Miranda asking Erin to help out at events, baking cookies together, giving her a notebook or a simple bracelet. I thought it was sweet, maybe even helpful, a sign of a woman trying to be kind. But soon, I noticed the way Erin's face lit up every time Miranda suggested something new. She'd come home talking about how much fun Miranda was, how she just gets me. Mom, those small invitations grew into regular habits. Miranda's approval became something my daughter reached for. A look, a word, a small treat. It was like watching a new orbit form, one where I wasn't the center anymore. Gradually, the text messages from Erin slowed. Our Sunday mornings faded into quick check-ins and apologies about being too busy. The Willow House, once my kingdom, seemed to change hands overnight. More and more. I heard laughter from the kitchen, but it was Miranda's voice at the heart of every story. Regulars stopped by my office just to say how wonderful it was that Miranda's breathing new life into the place. I watched as my old recipes disappeared, replaced by Miranda's own family favorites. Each dish another quiet erasure. Erin was never far from Miranda's side, her pride clear whenever a new menu or event launched. Her laughter would ring out across the rooms where I'd once felt so sure of myself. Peter, meanwhile, floated through it all. Grateful to have a wife who seemed to run circles around any challenge. Grateful, I think, to stay out of the middle. Sometimes, I'd catch Miranda watching me. Her look was hard to pin down. Was she sorry? Was it triumph? Maybe even guilt? She'd always smile when she saw me looking, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Out in public, everyone saw a thriving family business and a daughter with 2 mothers who loved her. But deep down, I felt the connection to Erin thinning, straining, like a thread you pull too tight, always wondering which tug will be the last. Have you ever watched someone gently, quietly, gather everything you love, without ever raising their voice or breaking a single rule? That's how it happens. Sometimes, you don't even notice what's missing until one day. There's nothing left to hold on to but the memory of how it used to be. Used to. You'd think betrayal comes all at once. A slammed door, a harsh word, some unmistakable signal that something has changed for good. But for me, it was quieter. It slipped in with gentle excuses, with birthdays postponed, with invitations that never quite reached me. It wasn't a single argument. It was 100 small things that, all together, turned my world upside down. I first started to feel Erin slipping away during the holidays. She used to love our traditions, just the 2 of us decorating the house, baking cookies, lighting the same silly candle on her birthday cake. Now, she was always helping Miranda set up or just stopping by for a minute before she had to run. She'd say she was too busy, or she'd already promised Miranda she'd work the weekend. I started learning about her milestones, college visits, job offers, new friends, through other people's Facebook posts. There was always a photo of Erin at the Willow House, Miranda's arm around her, always tagged family. One afternoon, I tried to surprise Erin at work with her favorite muffins. Miranda intercepted me before I made it past the entryway. Her smile was warm, practiced. Oh, Erin's tied up in the back, but I'll tell her you stopped by. She spoke as if nothing were wrong, but something in her tone made me feel like I was trespassing in my own home. Later, I saw her pull Erin aside, whispering something that made Erin nod, eyes darting in my direction, full of uncertainty and guilt. Miranda never demanded anything outright. She offered opportunities. Why don't you help plan the winter gala? Or, would you like to take charge of the dessert menu? Always worded like gifts, but each one pulling Erin a little farther from me and a little closer to her, It was subtle, so easily denied. If I ever questioned it, I knew the response. You're imagining things, Grace. Miranda just wants to help, but I wasn't imagining it. I could see Miranda's careful hands rearranging my world. One well-timed compliment, one private conversation, one erased tradition at a time. In public, she found ways to praise me, always mentioning Grace's old recipes or Grace's dedication to the club, while quietly making sure my influence faded away. Then came the night everything became clear. I was closing up late, flipping through a pile of invoices, when I found an envelope tucked behind a stack of papers. Catering bills for events that never happened. Checks made out to names I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But the more I looked, the more I recognized Miranda's signature, careful and unmistakable. My heart thudded in my chest. She wasn't just changing the Willow House. She was siphoning money, slowly and carefully, using Erin's name and projects as the perfect cover. The worst part was knowing my daughter was being used as a shield. Every questionable payment was tied to Erin's team, or a new idea Erin's leading. Erin, caught in the middle, never questioned a thing. She was just so happy to be needed, to be chosen. I wanted to storm into the kitchen and demand an explanation, to shout and shake some truth out of everyone. But when I saw Miranda the next morning, she greeted me with the same calm smile. Did you sleep well, Grace? Let's have a great day, okay? For a split second, I thought I saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of being caught, but fear of losing everything she'd worked so hard to make hers. That night, after the house went quiet, I sat alone in the dark kitchen, scrolling through old photos, Erin blowing out birthday candles, Sunday mornings when we still had our little rituals. I realized I'd spent too long fighting the wrong battles. This wasn't about recipes or restaurant decor, or even about keeping old traditions alive. It was about finding my place again, not by chasing what was lost, but by quietly, patiently reclaiming what mattered most. My voice, my worth, my connection to my daughter. Have you ever wondered if you could win it all back? Not by fighting, but by letting the truth speak for itself. Sometimes, the only way to reclaim your story is to stop trying so hard to hold on to the past and to let the real story rise up, one silent truth at a time. It's easy to picture revenge as something dramatic, a slammed door, a tearful confrontation, someone shouting in the rain. But in my world, it began quietly, with a phone call, a gentle check-in, a memory passed between old friends. Sometimes, the first step toward reclaiming your place isn't to fight louder, but to listen deeper. After discovering those invoices, I didn't march into Miranda's office or demand an explanation. Instead, I dialed Helen, the longtime server who'd left the Willow House when things started changing. Helen answered before the first ring finished. She sounded surprised, relieved even, as if she'd been waiting for someone, anyone, to finally ask, "Are you okay?" It didn't take long before we were laughing about the old days in the kitchen, about silly mistakes and inside jokes, about the way every customer was treated like family. "It doesn't feel like home anymore," she admitted softly. "It's like someone painted over everything we built. But the old color keeps showing through." That conversation lit a little fire inside me. I began reaching out to others who'd drifted away. Vendors, musicians, even folks who'd only worked a season or two. Some had been gently pushed out. Others left because it was easier than fighting for a seat at a shrinking table. But everyone remembered what the Willow House had been. A place where you belonged, even on your worst days. We started small. I organized a simple community supper, inviting those old faces back for a meal and a night of stories. I'll admit, I was nervous. I thought maybe a few would show. Instead, the room filled with hugs, laughter, and even a few tears as people remembered parts of themselves they thought they'd lost. For a few hours, the old magic was back, unforced, warm, and real. Word got around. Soon, regulars and even strangers were asking for my advice again, about menus, about family, about how to fix what had quietly slipped away. I took every call, wrote every recipe anyone asked for, and, most importantly, I never spoke ill of Miranda. I let the truth tell itself. Sometimes, you don't have to fight the darkness. You just have to light a match and let others see for themselves. All the while, Miranda seemed to double down, planning bigger events, organizing flashier parties, keeping Erin as close as possible. But the pressure showed. Her laughter got a little louder, her jaw a little tighter, and every now and then, I'd catch her shooting a nervous glance over her shoulder, as if afraid someone would finally see past the performance. Erin grew more restless, too. She started dropping by for short, almost accidental visits, just passing through. Mom. Sometimes she'd linger in the kitchen, playing with her keys, asking questions that cut straight through me. Did you ever miss someone you loved, even when they were right there? I always answered gently, careful not to push, hoping she'd find her way back on her own, in her own time, quietly. I also reached out to a local reporter I trusted, sending them a copy of the suspicious invoices, asking them to look into the Willow House's finances. I mailed old board members a plain envelope with photocopies and a single note. You deserve to know the truth. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. Sometimes, the most powerful moves happen in silence. One call, one memory, one person at a time. And sometimes, even the cleverest thief forgets who built the walls she's living behind. It was never about outsmarting Miranda. It was about reminding everyone what real belonging and real home feel like. Change didn't come crashing in. It slipped through the cracks, steady and cautious, built from quiet hope and careful choices. It started with late-night phone calls, whispered encouragement from old friends, and the feeling that maybe, just maybe, this story wasn't finished. With a little help and a handful of loyal investors, I began to buy back small pieces of the Willow House. Each new share felt like a tiny act of family revenge, a silent victory for all that had been taken from me. Miranda and Peter still held most of the power, but every slip of paper with my name on it meant the past couldn't be completely erased. Of course, Miranda was never going to surrender quietly. The more ground I gained, the more determined she became, throwing lavish charity events, courting new investors, making sure Erin was always by her side, her arm wrapped tightly around the daughter who had once been mine, alone. Miranda worked every room with that honeyed voice and practiced smile, but I could see the sharpness in her eyes, the tension in her posture, the way she never seemed to really relax. Sometimes I wondered just how deep her influence really ran inside these walls. Then, one stormy afternoon, Erin showed up at my door. Her face was pale, her eyes red, her fingers clutching her phone like a lifeline. She hesitated in the doorway, shoulders tense. Miranda says I'm not supposed to talk to you about anything work-related anymore. She says it's for the good of the business. Erin's voice trembled, caught between guilt and longing. But, Mom, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I miss us. I held her close, feeling the ache of every mother who's ever been quietly erased from her own family. I whispered, "You never have to choose. Honey, no betrayal, no silent treatment can change what's real. You'll always have a place with me." That night, as the rain battered the windows, Erin and I sat up late, sharing old memories, fears, and secrets. She brought out messages, documents, even a few bank records that just didn't add up. Each one another thread in Miranda's carefully woven tapestry of deception. But Erin was scared, and I understood why. She'd heard rumors about Miranda's next move, powerful outside investors, legal complaints, threats whispered behind closed doors. She said she'd destroy anyone who stood in her way. She scares me sometimes. Mom, a chill ran through me. This was no longer just a story about mothers and daughters, or even about family betrayal. This was a fight for legacy, a fight for every silent victory that deserved to be named, for every woman who had ever fought to be remembered. We started planning. Erin would quietly gather more evidence. I would reach out to the old guard, the people who remembered the Willow House when it was built on heart, not fear. We'd call an emergency board meeting. But I warned Erin. Miranda won't step aside easily. She's built a kingdom here, and she'll use everything she has to keep it. That night, after Erin went to bed, I sat by the window, staring at the empty seat across from me. I thought of all the women who had come before me, all the mothers who had fought to hold on to their place at the table. I thought about what it meant to be erased, and about how much strength it takes to fight your way back. Some stories of mother-daughter betrayal and family revenge aren't settled with a single truth. They're forged in storms, and only the strongest hearts can see them through. The real battle for our family, our name, and our place at the Willow House had just begun. The emergency board meeting was set. Erin and I walked into the Willow House together, gripping our folder of evidence, bracing ourselves for the fight of our lives. Today felt like it could be our silent victory, the moment when all the family drama would finally give way to truth, when the mother-daughter betrayal that kept me up at night would come to an end. But Miranda was ready. She stood at the head of the table, every inch the image of composure. Yet, I caught it. A single nervous tap of her finger against the polished wood, so quick you'd miss it if you didn't know what to look for. Her eyes met mine, then flicked to Erin, sharp and searching, weighing her options. Inside, I imagined her telling herself, "Don't show weakness. They can't know you're afraid." She cleared her throat, steady as ever. "Before we begin, I'm pleased to announce that the Willow House is entering a new era. I've secured investment from 2 new partners." The doors opened, and the 2 sharply dressed lawyers entered, dropping thick binders on the table with a thud. They've agreed to fund our expansion on the condition that the club is managed by professionals, not nostalgia. She paused, savoring the tension in the room, before adding, "Given recent rumors of irregular share purchases, our legal team has filed for an injunction. Grace's voting rights are suspended until the investigation is complete." A ripple of shock moved around the room. Peter wouldn't look at me. Erin's hand found mine under the table, squeezing so hard I thought she might break my fingers. My heart hammered in my chest, but I tried to keep my face calm. Miranda's allies leaned forward, faces I'd once trusted now clouded with doubt or calculation. The tension was thick as soup. For just a second, I saw the mask slip. A flicker of fear crossed Miranda's face before she tucked it neatly behind her practiced smile. The meeting became a battleground. Erin stood, her voice shaking but strong, laying out every piece of evidence we'd collected. Emails, ledgers, small betrayals stacked like kindling. "My mother built this place," she said. Miranda threatened me. Threatened us all. But Miranda's side pushed back at every turn, questioning Erin's motives, doubting the validity of everything we'd gathered. "Isn't this just old jealousy?" they asked. "A family feud?" Nothing more? Arguments flew back and forth, whispers of insider trading, coercion, family revenge. The board was split straight down the middle. I watched Erin falter, tears gathering in her eyes, her strength faltering as Miranda's legal team twisted every word. For a terrible moment, I feared I might lose her again, not to Miranda's power, but to the shame and exhaustion of being erased. Finally, the chair called for a vote. The room fell silent as hands rose, one side, then the other. The count was a perfect tie. All eyes turned to Mr. Dwyer, the founding board member who had yet to make his choice. He looked slowly around the table, his voice grave but gentle. "This isn't about new money or old grudges. This is about truth. We'll pause for 1 week. If anyone has more evidence, bring it forward. Then we decide, once and for all." Miranda exhaled, relief flickering across her face. But the tension didn't leave her shoulders. In the swirl of applause and whispered arguments, I caught her eye. A flash of desperation, then a return to her careful, unreadable mask as Erin and I left the meeting. She clung to me. "Mom, I'm scared. What if she wins?" she whispered. I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close. "We haven't lost yet." Miranda watched us from the doorway as we stepped out, her face as unreadable as ever. But in her eyes I saw it. Not triumph, not even hate, but that raw, terrified hunger of a woman who refuses to be powerless, no matter the cost. The war for the Willow House wasn't over. Next week, everything, family, respect, legacy, would be on the line. The next battle would decide who truly belonged, and who would be erased for good. The days leading up to the final vote felt endless, each hour stretching out beneath the weight of what we stood to lose. Erin barely slept. I'd find her in the kitchen at midnight, holding old family photos, her voice barely a whisper as she asked, "What if she wins? Mom, what if we lose everything?" I wanted to promise her we'd come out whole, but in this kind of family revenge, there are never any guarantees. Just hope, and the courage to fight for a chance at healing. Miranda didn't slow down. Her lawyers fired off letters threatening lawsuits, defamation, business sabotage. She emailed board members with stories about my past, spinning my mistakes into warning signs, insisting that siding with me would lead only to ruin. Peter tried to stay invisible, loyal to whoever seemed safest at the moment. The Willow House became a place of whispers, of silent victories I could almost touch, and family drama thick as smoke in every hallway. But sometimes, just when you think you're alone, someone shows up and reminds you how strong hope can be. The night before the vote, Helen came to my door. She was nervous, wringing her hands, but determined to speak. She'd brought statements from staff Miranda had threatened, bullied or bribed, proof I never would have asked for. I was scared. "Grace," she admitted, "but I'm done hiding." That simple act of bravery changed everything. Erin wrapped Helen in a tight hug, tears of gratitude spilling down her cheeks. "You saved us. You saved my mom." For the first time. I felt the mood shift, the whole weight of family drama finally tipping in our favor. The boardroom was packed the next morning, tension thick as honey. Miranda sat with her arms crossed, her composure perfect, but I noticed her foot tapping out a nervous rhythm beneath the table. I stood, heart pounding but voice steady, laying out every document, every thread of betrayal, every moment of silent erasure that brought us to this day. Erin spoke too, her voice trembling but strong. I lost myself trying to keep everyone happy. But you can't heal by hiding the truth. I won't let fear erase what my real mother built. Just as the vote was about to begin, Miranda stood abruptly, her voice cutting through the silence like glass. You all want to talk about betrayal? Her eyes pinned me to my seat. Ask Grace what really happened 5 years ago. Ask her how many nights she left her daughter alone, just to keep this place open. Ask how she skirted the rules to keep the doors from closing. None of you are saints. Why should she get forgiveness for her mistakes, while I get punished for mine? The room froze. Peter looked away, and a few board members exchanged uneasy glances. For a moment, Miranda's gamble nearly worked. Old doubts resurfaced, old wounds reopened. I could feel the shame of my own mistakes burning my cheeks, and I wondered if I really was any better than Miranda. Had my ambition left Erin vulnerable to someone else's care? But then Helen spoke, her voice quiet but unwavering. None of us are perfect. Miranda. But when Grace made mistakes, she admitted them. She protected us, listened, and owned her faults. You used threats and secrets. We choose the mother who lifts others up, not the one who rules by fear, one by one. The room nodded. Staff, regulars, even some board members who had seemed on the fence. Erin stepped forward, her voice soft but clear. Maybe my mom worked too much, but she never made me choose sides, never tried to erase anyone to feel safe. She taught me that forgiveness is strength, not weakness. I saw Miranda's mask falter, a flicker of hurt, a flash of anger, maybe even a shadow of regret, before she put it back in place. The chair called for the vote. Hands went up, one after the other. Then all at once, at last, the tie broke. Miranda's side was defeated. The board's verdict: Miranda would be removed from management, her shares bought back at a fair price. She'd be given a new title, brand ambassador, with commission if she brought business, but never again allowed to control or threaten the club. Miranda stood in silence, shoulders squared, jaw set. She accepted the deal, but you could see she wasn't broken, just forced to surrender to the will of those she could no longer bend. The pain in her eyes said more than any outburst ever could. This wasn't just a loss for her. It was a wound reopened, one she'd carried since childhood. Her last weapon finally blunted by the power of truth and the resilience of those she'd tried to erase. As Erin and I walked out, surrounded by friends and staff, I whispered to her, "We won. But let's never forget what it cost. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting the betrayal. It's about healing, together." And as the boardroom emptied, Miranda sat alone, staring at her empty hands, still refusing to apologize, but changed all the same. Her own battle only just beginning. 3 months after the storm in the boardroom, the Willow House felt lighter than it had in years. The place was filled with the scent of cinnamon and coffee, the soft clatter of plates, laughter echoing off those old brick walls that held so many memories. Good, bad, and everything in between. By the front door, a new plaque glinted in the morning sun. Grace and Erin, a legacy reclaimed, every Sunday. Erin helped me set the table for lunch. Her steps easy, her smile genuine in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child. It feels like we can finally breathe. "Mom," she'd say, looping her arm through mine as we set out the good silverware. Our new rhythm, simple and full of hope. And always, there was one seat left empty, a silent promise. Never forgotten. Never ignored. When curious customers asked about it, Erin would just smile, her eyes full of a kindness she'd earned the hard way. "It's for anyone brave enough to come back," she'd say. The chair became a gentle question in the center of the room, a reminder that forgiveness is possible. And sometimes, so is coming home. Miranda's portrait still hung in the hallway. She had her place in our story, after all. But for a while, she stayed away, licking her wounds, proud and stubborn as ever. But little by little, something shifted. She began bringing in new business, pitching the Willow House to companies and travelers, even to old friends who remembered her before the hard edges. Each time she visited, she'd sit at the bar alone, watching families gather. Sometimes a little envious, sometimes just thoughtful. Her gaze never settling for long. She never became soft, never truly warm. That wasn't who she was. But she worked hard for her commissions, and whatever reputation she earned it honestly this time. I saw the struggle in her, caught between the old habits that once protected her and the new beginnings she never thought she'd want. Sometimes she'd nod at me across the room. Sometimes she'd even murmur a quiet thank you. Not once did she ever apologize for the battle we'd fought. And in the end, I didn't need her to. One rainy evening, Miranda came in with a new client, a single mom starting her own bakery. She paused at the threshold, glanced at the empty chair, and for a moment looked younger, more uncertain. "That seat, is it really for anyone?" she asked, her voice softer than I remembered. I nodded, meeting her eyes. "It's for anyone who's ever lost their way, Miranda, or anyone ready to start again." She sat for a few quiet minutes, then rose to leave. At the door, she hesitated, looking back at me. "I never really wanted a family, Grace. I just wanted to be needed. I never knew how lonely winning could feel." Her words stayed with me long after she left. A different kind of lesson. One about letting go, and about the invisible battles we all fight. Erin slipped her hand into mine as we watched Miranda disappear into the drizzle outside. "I think she's still fighting her old battles." "Mom, but you didn't let her erase us. You taught me that forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about letting yourself be free." The years rolled on. The Willow House thrived, filled with new faces, old recipes, the music of laughter and second chances. Erin grew into a woman who was both gentle and strong, respected by the community, never forgetting the pain of being erased or the quiet triumph of being reclaimed. Sometimes late at night, I'd find myself sitting by the empty chair, remembering all we'd lost and all we'd found again. Peter visited once in a while, always a little awkward, always grateful that the women in his life had managed to move forward without tearing each other down. The community remembered our story, a story of family drama, of betrayal, but also of courage, truth, and forgiveness. If you've ever felt like you lost your place at the table, remember, your story isn't over. Sometimes the seat you're waiting for is the one you end up offering to someone else. Share your story in the comments. Who in your life deserves an empty chair and a second chance? And so, the next celebration at the Willow House is always open, because some victories are silent, some scars never fully heal, and some empty chairs wait patiently for anyone bold enough to come home.